This is the story of how the worst week of my life became the best week of my life. When I was growing up, as I grew into older childhood, I started to experience anxiety, but it was a very specific feeling of the thoughts being uncomfortable. There's something about thinking that just did not feel right to me. It was strange because I sort of defined myself through thought, through beliefs, through memories about myself. But at the same time, the habit of continuing to do that felt more and more uncomfortable. Also, there were periods when I would notice that I was sort of aware, but I wasn't entangled in thoughts, and thoughts would just kind of come and go. And I noticed breaks in the thoughts, almost like I could catch my breath between thoughts. And I thought that was kind of interesting and fascinating, but I also felt really uncomfortable as I noticed this, because I could see how the thoughts were kind of binding me in. They were feeling more and more like a prison, like a cell. And over time, I sort of forgot about observing thoughts in this way, and I just became entangled in the thoughts. And then I became more and more anxious as I grew into late teens. I remember thoughts endlessly asking, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? I remember thinking this over and over. What is fundamentally wrong here? Something doesn't feel right. It feels really uncomfortable. And I could look around and notice that many people seemed okay. They seemed to be relaxed. They seemed to know how to just talk to one another and feel normal and act normal and enjoy themselves. I never felt that at all. I never felt relaxed, really. I never felt like I was enjoying myself. And the older I got and the more continuous the thoughts became, the worse it was, the less comfortable I was. And I'm laughing now because looking back, I can see how much it just had to do with thoughts and the way I was thinking. But at the moment, it wasn't funny. It was really uncomfortable. It felt like a pressure cooker inside my head. And what's interesting is you might think I would have reached out to somebody to ask for help or to talk about it. But strangely, something about the way the thoughts functioned, I could see that other people had the same thing going on, and they also didn't know what to do about it. There was something about it that I just knew intuitively, I suppose, that no one was really going to help me through this. Like I had to find my own way. That was my perception at the time. So there was something about it that was very isolating as well. The thoughts about myself, the self-referential thoughts, the self-critical thoughts, and the endless thought loop going, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Something's wrong here. This doesn't feel right. But not having any solution and outwardly looking into the world, not really seeing anyone that seemed to have a solution to this. So it was very uncomfortable in my late teens, early 20s. I was able to function in life reasonably well. I was able to work and go to school and all those sorts of things, but I still felt very, very isolated. And the fundamental problem of what is wrong with me, or what is it with all these thoughts? What is it with this anxiety, this almost constant sense that things aren't right? I never really addressed it. And it's almost as if I kind of learned to live with it and forget about it. Just noticing there was this discomfort in the background, but kind of getting hypnotized by the thoughts enough that I didn't really fully notice it. But it was there, of course. And then there was a period of my life where for a short time I was dating somebody, and I had been pretty lonely before that. I hadn't dated very much or anything. So dating somebody who I was very attracted to, and it was a very short relationship, a very short connection, and kind of tumultuous. But there was something about it where I knew, okay, this is the thing that's going to make me finally happy, right? This is the thing that's going to finally make me feel better. And when it ended pretty abruptly, I could see very clearly that not only because it ended was that not going to satisfy me or make me happy, but because of the way I felt during it, it wasn't going to satisfy me or make me happy or address that fundamental angst, that fundamental feeling of something just being wrong with me. So that was extremely isolating. It was like the last thing that I had sort of held out hope for also failed. So I felt worse. It felt like the most dark, difficult helpless, hopeless place I'd ever experienced. And I still had to just go on. I still had to live life and act like everything was okay. It was very uncomfortable, very dysphoric. But there was something about it that felt a little different than anything I had felt before. Just a little bit. There was a quality to it that was surprising. Looking back, I might say something like a sense of wonder or the unknown or a mystery. Something was opening maybe. But this was maybe 2% of my experience, and 98% of it was just the usual anxiety and loss and feeling of isolation and confusion and self-doubt and all of it. So this week was probably the most difficult or uncomfortable experience I've ever had as a human being. Worst week of my life. But this feeling, this sensation I was starting to notice was going to play a big part in what came next. It was going to really change the course of my life. It was going to fundamentally change the way I experienced myself, the way I experienced isolation, the way I experienced even the physical body and the physical world. It was going to completely change this week. But I didn't know that. All I knew was something felt a little different. There was something in my experience that was just new or fresh or unexpected. So I started to orient to that. Or I guess become curious about it. It's a little hard to say because there was so much going on, as there always was in my mind. Lots of thoughts, lots of stress, lots of churning of the mind, self-doubt, thoughts, all of it. So this sort of wondrous new element was there, but it was kind of in the background, like a buoyant question mark that would just pop up here and there of like, wow, look at this. What is this? I had no context for it. It didn't feel like anything specific that I could describe. It didn't feel religious. It didn't feel philosophical. It definitely wasn't a thought. It wasn't more of the same. It wasn't an idea about what I could do with my life that would suddenly make me feel better. It wasn't a sense of God, or it just didn't feel like any of that at all. But it felt different. It felt rather mysterious. So this is the entry point, this mysterious something. And in the following videos, I'm going to unpack what happened. I'm going to unpack what that turned out to be and what it led to, and how the worst week of my life turned into the best week of my life and changed everything.